Hello and welcome to Coach Unblocked, part of the Unblocked Podcast Network. We're here tonight with my special guest, long-time friend, Corey LaBounty, sitting in the WNSP studios. Just wrapped up his show and jumped on with me. Corey, thanks so much for coming on.
Coach Riley, I can't thank you enough for having me. I've been watching your podcast, following your podcast, and I know it's something that if you're having fun, Coach, it's never work. No stress there, just talking what you love each and every week. So I appreciate you for having me.
Amen, brother. And, I believe, I don't know if it's the first time it was not the first time we met, but I want to say one of the first times we spoke was you were doing the games at Ladd Stadium. And we were moving from the Lip to Ladd, and I had to sort of fire you. Not really, but
it was for good reason, though. It was for reason. Family first, Coach. Family first.
My brother-in-law was doing the games, and of course we agreed that anytime he wasn't there, you'd fill in for him and make it work. And but I think that's the first time we ever spoke.
It was, Coach. When you're having fun and you do high school football on the Pigskin Pete show and being blessed enough, you cover your games and you're in and out, or you're just giving those quick reports and not really having the chance to dig in and dive in. But you're absolutely right. That was the first opportunity there as you guys transitioned over to Ladd Peebles.
So now tell us a little bit. I mean, who is Corey LaBounty? Where did you grow up? Where did you come from? Where did you go to high school? Where did you develop your love for sports across the board that led you down this path of being a broadcaster, announcer, commentary person, all of the above?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. My mom and dad moved here to Mobile when I was 4 years old. So pretty much my entire education or my entire background, my entire life, I'm 46, I'll be 47 in November, and having an opportunity to grow up here in Mobile and this to really be home and to get educated in the Mobile County public school system, basically K through 12. I am a John L. LaFleur graduate. I went to John Will Elementary School, and of course, our feeder pattern back in that day was Shaw High School and Hillsdale Middle School. So that's kind of, I went from John Will, transitioned over to Hillsdale Middle School, and then finished up from LaFleur. And the reason I wanted to go to LaFleur is because of my love for basketball. And because of my love for basketball, I really had an opportunity to look at it and say, look, I really wanted to go to a program and play for the legendary Hall of Famer J.D. Sherwood. Mm-hmm. And of course, my freshman year, Coach Sherwood, he retired from LaFleur and coaching. He went over to Bishop State. So that's where I'm from an educational standpoint and what my background is. But as far as from a love of sports standpoint, back in the day, we didn't have video games. You had the Atari or the Commodore, but you had to read a lot, books and, television networks. There weren't 300 channels to sit and watch, and you get a lot of information from the radio and from reading newspapers and Sports Illustrated and from magazines. And I loved sports growing up, and I felt like I was never the tallest or the most athletic, but I loved the team standpoint of football and basketball. And that's where my mom and dad got me involved with sports at the YMCA, the local YMCA. Is where I started playing basketball at maybe 4 or 5 years old. And you have an opportunity there to take that love of basketball and try football. And I was never the biggest and the strongest. Played on those Municipal Park Raiders teams growing up there in the early 80s that were dominant in the early 90s and won a Youth Bowl in 1987. But after that, Coach, listen, I left the big fellas in middle school. I wasn't big enough and strong enough to play football, and I just continue to say, look, mentally I can understand it and watch it and know the how and the why and the how and the why to basketball. And it just got to a point to where I was never the most athletic guy in the room, especially going to LaFleur. I got cut after my freshman year, and there was no Michael Jordan story for me after getting cut from the team. Wasn't great enough, Coach. And I just knew cerebrally I could understand the game better than most. So I went ahead and continued my passion for sports and communicating through sports, because I knew I wasn't going to be the best athlete, but I could communicate what the athletes were thinking, what the coaches were thinking. And that's kind of how my love of sports across the board kind of grew.
Well, I could imagine, I know I was this kind of kid, but I would imagine, based upon what you do and how well you do it, that you were a kid that, out playing basketball by himself, narrated the game to yourself as you were playing. And whether you were imitating Dr. J or whomever you were imitating at the time, I mean, you were broadcasting that game to yourself and making the crowd roar to yourself. And I know that's what I grew up doing. I mean, like you said, there wasn't anything else to do. You better have some creativity about you in order to and be able to play by yourself. And,
yes.
So did I hit the nail on the head there? I mean, is that?
You did. I mean, you do play those one-on-one matchups with yourself, and
Sure.
you create those situations. And me, what I would love to do too is I would definitely mute the television or turn the television down, and I would comment myself, and you would listen to the greatness of John Madden growing up in football, or Vern Lundquist in football, or you had Brett Musburger and Bryant Gumbel and Greg Gumbel, and you had all these greats that you love to hear their voice, but you wanted to hear your own voice. You wanted to bring that own flavor to the game yourself. And that's what I was able to do. And that's how my passion really, not only didn't have a face pretty enough for television. So I started with the radio side of it first, and just got a love and a passion, just talking about, it's not work, Coach, if you love what you do on a daily basis. And it never was work for myself, getting a chance to talk about and cover sports that I loved. And that's just how that all started. And Bryant Gumbel was one of my biggest role models there growing up. People would see him on the NBC Today show every morning before school, and you would hear him not only be able to talk about life and politics and sports and culture, everything all together. I said, man, this is awesome. This is great. And then you get home on the weekends and you get a chance to listen and watch even more sports. And that's where my passion grew for it.
Well, now, so first time you ever did a game, and what was your first experience in what you do now?
I will say this. I was blessed with the opportunity for Tim Taylor, also known as Pigskin Pete, here in Mobile, works for WNSP, and he gave me an opportunity. LaFleur High School was never great in football, right? It was basketball and band is what we dominated in LaFleur High School. It was never football, even under the Coach Jesse years, William Jesse, the great Hall of Famer. We could never really get over that hump and win 7 or 8 games a year. You'd be lucky if you won 2 games a year. So what happened there is, it's a situation, Coach, to, you had the broadcast of LaFleur that never got covered because we weren't good in football.
Right.
So you would never have the LaFleur score ever. So
Gotcha.
I would into Pigskin Pete and say, hey, I would love to give you an update. I'm here filming the game, and I'm recording the game for the coaching staff when we use those cameras, and I would be able to give him that missing score every single week for LaFleur. And then it went from doing that to saying, hey, look, we appreciate that update. Would you mind coming and doing another team outside on a Thursday night? And I said, sure, no problem, would love to. So I would go out and I would do that. So I have to thank Pigskin Pete for getting me started covering high school football here locally. And then when I started to do that, a name that you're very familiar with, the late Ray Russell, gave me an opportunity. He said, listen, he was good friends with Paul Christopher. And right at the time, the voice of Lad Peoples Stadium had passed away due to throat cancer. So they were looking for a voice. And he said, I think you would be great, Corey. So Ray Russell believed in me enough to say, I think you would do a wonderful job. Mr. Christopher gave me that opportunity. So you have 4 or 5 teams playing at Lad on any other week. 2 or 3 games on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday sometimes, it gave me an opportunity to continue to work and hone on my craft. But I was nervous as all get out behind a microphone because it's just you and the microphone. And everybody, at Lab People Stadium, when we had those big games, whether it was Williamson and Viger or LaFleur and Williamson, you were going to have 10 to 12,000 people out there listening. And I got more and more comfortable, but that was my first exposure to broadcasting really to the masses with that one-on-one call in with Pigskin Pete and then taking it to the PA announcing that you and I talked about earlier.
And now, and of course, I would enjoy your, we talked about, Luke Coley being our PA announcer and coming to Lad with us. And, and Luke was y'all were totally different. And how you did a Fairhope Storm game or two for us when Luke couldn't be, and of course, Luke was, he grew up on listening to Mr. Pepper at Legion Field. And sort of did his style around him, basically just information, first and 10 Alabama at the 32-yard line, but Davidson touchdown by Corey Patterson.
Right.
I mean, where if Corey LaBounty was going to call a Corey Patterson touchdown at Ladd Stadium, everybody in Maysville knew Corey Patterson had just scored. I mean, it was totally different slant on things, and very enjoyable, but certainly totally different.
Yes, and that's the great part about it. When I know your brother-in-law is a history buff as well, and you talk about the history and his foundation. That's one of the things I love history too. Outside of sports, that's my second favorite subject in school is history. And when he would give those history questions, I'm like, I think I can nail this one. I think I can get the correct answer. But you're right. Different styles, different techniques are always different. And I'm just one that I love to be high energy because that's just how I like to play the game when I played it. I know that fans sometimes are sitting on the seats. And what I learned is, Coach, how to work a crowd in regards, almost the Harlem Globetrotters when they work up a crowd, or anyone else when you're hyping up a situation. I learned that people are listening to every word you say, regardless of whether you think they are or not. When you ask them, and that's another Davidson Warrior, they'll finish the sentence for you. First down, when you say Warriors, whatever, they'll give it to you. They'll reciprocate the type of energy. And Williamson and Murphy, who are still at Ladd, do that now. They'll give you that Maysville community, and that Midtown community will give you back the energy that you give them.
No question. And let's keep chasing this rabbit a little bit. Because LaFleur's not getting covered on Pigskin Pete.
Yep.
You develop a relationship. You end up doing Ladd Stadium games as an announcer. Now you have your own radio show, and you've had multiple radio shows, and you've called, you've gone to AHSAA regional, maybe finals. You've covered football at the highest level in high school football now. How did you go from calling into Pigskin Pete, telling him I'd like to cover the LaFleur game, to doing all of those things?
It's been nobody but God. I'll be honest with you. I've been tremendously blessed. My family, my mom and my dad instilled faith in me, and faith without works is dead. And I give him all the credit. I give God all the glory and all the honor. And it's through his grace and mercy that he's blessed me. I've learned about the power of networking, the power of friendships, and the power of knowing people at the right time, in the right place, in the right moments, presenting themselves and being ready for that moment. Because you're going to get sometimes one opportunity. I know the first time I did a Hoover state championship game in 7A, I was scared to death because it's at Bryant-Denny Stadium. there are probably close to 14 or 15,000 people there at the stadium. And you know that there are a lot of people on the radio in the concourse area listening to your call. So you had to be prepared for it. And how do you go from calling into the Pigskin Pete show to where, I will say this, calling in the Pigskin Pete show, he blessed me. He said, okay, come on into the studio after the LaFleur game. So I was able to come and see how the inner workings of the Pigskin Pete show worked until midnight here from a high school standpoint, and went from there to one of my former coworkers, Rick Cleveland, had a high school show, and Rick called and said, man, you're doing a phenomenal job. Would you mind coming in sitting with me on Saturday mornings after midnight? He said, it'll be an early morning, but it'll give you a chance to talk about all the schools and all the games. And I was like, sure, would love that opportunity. So I give credit to Rick Cleveland, UMS Wright, longtime teacher, former Daphne head coach, gave me that opportunity on his show, a high school show, to where he didn't just talk football, he talked all of high school sports. And I love high school athletics because it was the purest form, and there were a lot of people that needed the exposure and the opportunity, didn't hear their name called on Thursday or Friday night, or at that volleyball game, or at that soccer, or at that baseball game. And this is when we had paper on daily coverage, Coach. There was daily coverage of our athletes at once upon a time. That there just no longer is, unfortunately. But with that being said, Coach Cleveland gave me that opportunity, and I went in and sat with him right here at WNSP for a while. And then we went on to another station, and it gave me a chance to branch off into my own show, Corey LaBounty's Locker Room on iHeart. So I did that for a while prior to coming back here to WNSP and hosting the Final Drive every day from 3 to 6. And it's just been a blessing, Coach. Nobody but God. It goes back to giving God the glory and honor to where those networking opportunities being placed in the right place at the right time, people believing and trusting in what they were hearing and what they were seeing, and getting the chance to go ahead and be prepared for that moment of broadcasting a Hoover versus Spain Park, or whoever they were playing in the state championship, Hoover versus Thompson, whoever it was, the big game, believing that I could do that, and believing that I could cover all state championships regardless of classification. Coach Savarese is another one that really believed in me. Steve Savarese, former executive director, really believed in what I was doing, and he encouraged me to continue to pursue my passion. And it created friendships and bonds, and going on and meeting people like yourself and other coaches in the profession in high school athletics and collegiate athletics. I've been tremendously blessed to where it's just not football or basketball. I help out South Alabama. I officiate myself and get ingrained with the rules and the knowledge. So that part is fun too.
Well, and you hit on a couple of things there that are I'll come back to. One is how the world has changed in terms of covering sports in this generation we're talking about. I mean, the joy of picking up the newspaper on Saturday morning and having basically a whole sports page dedicated to high school football games, and especially if you were the game of the game, and you're on the front page of the sports, or up on the front page of the newspaper, there's going to be a little blip. Go to page 1C. Davidson beats Murphy. And you go there, and there's the picture of Jarrell Smith or whomever, front page and of the sports. I mean, from that to now, every kid is basically his own PR man. I mean, through Twitter, through social media, they've lost some of that joy that comes from that to where you just, every now and then get that moment. And that was just so cool. And then the other thing, the being prepared for when the opportunity comes, being ready and having the wisdom or God tapping you on the shoulder and saying, this is it now. I mean, here's what you've been prepared for, this moment, this point in time in your life. And I know for me, in terms of Davidson, it was when I came to Davidson as an assistant in 2001. I had been working, I'd been a head coach for a lot of years, then ended up being an assistant for a little bit. And I've been working on a head coach's, athletic director, head coach's manual, and had put it together and had it. And as an assistant, I gave it to Mr. Copeland and said, this is something I want you to see what I put together. I plan on being a head coach again one of these days, but I respect you enough. I want you to take a look at this and let me know what you think. And he kept a copy of it. And then when I left and gone to Maryville College, and Glenn Vickery decides to leave and go to Daphne, and Lewis Copeland calls me and says, "Do you want this job?" And I had laid that groundwork 2 years earlier. By recognizing, this man is sharp, this man is connected, this man is somebody that, if it's not this job, can help me become a head coach again one day, and just in recognizing that and being ready. And you obviously had numerous moments like that through your career, whether it was Tim or Paul Christopher or Steve Savarese or across the board, Rick Cleveland, et cetera, et cetera. And you've had to, and you have step up your game. I mean, you go from, whatever the audience is, a Maysville audience, if it's a Thursday night game at Ladd, it ain't a big audience to Bryant Denny.
Yeah.
And or how many people just now listen to you from 3 to 6 every day. Whether even if it's just that in that window from 5 to 6 when they're driving home, and I mean that's pretty cool, man. I mean,
I'm telling you, Coach, it's a tremendous honor for myself, and again, I wouldn't be here without the foundation that, God bless his soul, my dad laid for me, the belief that he had in me, and the belief that my mom still to this day has in me, and she's God bless her, she's a Vanderbilt Commodore graduate, okay? My mom, one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and, just has that Vanderbilt Commodore blood running, and anything dealing with Vanderbilt, she makes sure I get in on the show, because she can tell you how many bowling national championships Vanderbilt has won, how many baseball national championships Vanderbilt's won, and when they win in the football or basketball, she lets me know about that too. So it doesn't, my mom, I give her kudos to continue to push me and motivate me as well, and how important it is to have that support system, Coach, and I know you having kids yourself and grandkids, just to be that supportive system, no matter what they're doing, no matter what they're going through, no matter what they've been through. It's a situation of my support system has been tremendous. And the belief that my best friend, who now lives in Atlanta, Georgia, had in me a long time ago, he said, "Corey, that sounded pretty good, man. You need to go ahead and promote yourself and do a little self-promotion there for yourself." And he was right. It gave me an opportunity through networking and through meeting people. Again, I've been tremendously blessed by God to give this platform that WNSP has blessed me with each and every afternoon from 3 to 6. It's not work. I have the best job that I could ever imagine or dream of at this point in time in my life, to where I get a chance to talk any sport that I want to within a 3-hour window, Coach.
Right.
It doesn't get any better on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, whether it's high school sports that I still don't think it's always going to be my foundation. High school athletics and sports are always going to be my foundation. I just don't think young people get enough encouragement and get shown enough love. And I don't care if it's male or female. It doesn't matter. Plenty of sports don't even get mentioned. You don't hear swimming and diving get any love. You don't hear your cross country get any love, because it's right there during football season. And you being a former AD yourself, you know how it is, especially when spring rolls around. Coach, you have seven or 8 sports all going on at one time. And it's to show that type of love. So I'm blessed with the opportunity here to be on your platform and to talk about what you and I both love, which is athletics and sports.
And let's you you know that they ain't many of us that have a mama that graduated from Vanderbilt. I mean, you had a leg up on some folks with that. Tell us about your dad.
Yeah, so my dad, he moved here. He was a medical technologist, and my mom was a professor at the University of South Alabama. So when they left Nashville, when I was 4 years old, my mom went to become a teacher at a professor at the University of South Alabama. She was a hematologist, and she studies in sciences, and that part definitely didn't rub off on me because it's blood and guts and math, way too much of all of the above for me. So my mom and dad, I said, my dad, he was a med tech, and he worked at the University of South Alabama there off Fillington Street, and he did that until he passed away, was working in blood bank until he passed away. And I lost my dad at 60, and it's been, this year will be 20 years since he has been deceased. So he hasn't and didn't get an opportunity to see where I am now, but I have that guardian angel to where I know that he knew where I could go and knew what I could achieve, and always encouraged me to do my best, and that positive influencer and that stern disciplinarian when I wasn't doing right. I was always scared. It took a village in that situation, that old school mentality. And I miss him, but I know that I thank God for putting a positive father role model in my life. And my dad was that again, working in South Alabama for 20 plus years before he passed away, having that opportunity there to see him get up when he passed away. Coach, he was like you, had enough time to where when he left this earth, there was probably 2 years worth of sick days in the bank to where he just did his work. He got up, grinded every day, and was that positive role model for me to see. And the only sport my dad really liked was bowling. My dad was a bowler. And he was in the band. He was a band guy. My brother was in the band at LaFleur. I didn't pick up that part at all. I picked up just the love of sports. And, that's my family in a nutshell. My dad, he was a Jacksonville State graduate and lived in Gadsden, came from Gadsden. He went to Emma Sampson High School, and my mom, she went to Gadsden High School. So those two rival schools there, mom and dad at rival schools wind up being high school sweethearts and wind up marrying one another. So, that family right there, Jacksonville State and Vanderbilt or mom and dad educated, and they really influenced me, the importance of articulation, being able to communicate with people is something that not everybody likes to do. Not everybody is blessed to do, but there's communication in different ways. And my family and my mom and dad set that foundation for my brother and I.
Well, and one of the things you hit on, and you get a lot of definitions of leadership, and but the most important, I think, part of leadership is just showing up. I mean, when you have 2 years worth of sick days, you were a leader. You showed up. When you're tired and you go to your war slap out and you go to your kids' youth league football practice and sit there war slap out, you're leading. You're through just showing up. And we tend to think, well, leaders have got to be doing this and this and this and influencing the masses. And leadership's showing up where you need it. And it starts with family, showing up for the family and being there, and then impacting the world as your parents have through you, impacting the world through showing up for you. And then created, generational blessings in your family that somewhere back in there, if they both went to college at that time in history to Vanderbilt and Jacksonville State, then they obviously somebody in their family, grandparents, or flipped the switch for your family. and made the difference and showed up enough and valued education enough that, you know what, if you go to college, guess what? You go to college, your best chance to marry a college graduate. And if you marry a college graduate, you double your income, you double your opportunities, your children's opportunities exponentially have just changed the world for generations. And you're the byproduct of that. And you continue to give back, you know, and Mobile, Alabama is in a critical place right now. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind. I mean, Mobile, Alabama, kids are killing each other almost daily now. And the impact of, and it's going to take, besides the impact of Jesus, the impact of men. I mean, we're raised by mama, raised by grandmamas. They're fighting for their lives. I mean, to make ends meet, and it's going to take men. You know, it was our. You know, if you interviewed with me at Davidson, one of the first things you had to do was sit and talk to me about, okay, we have a fatherless child crisis right now, and here's how we have to deal with it. Most of our kids don't have daddies. And you've got to recognize that and understand who you're dealing with. And Jamal Lepp will tell you that was the first thing he and I talked about. We didn't talk about football. We talked about fatherless children and fatherless young men. And as he came in and to coach for me that brief amount of time, got hired by the New England Patriots 2 days ago. Yes, sir. I mean, you know, but he had great parents. And your daddy's a preacher and influenced him and impacted him generationally. And so we still got a lot of work to do. And, you know, and I just appreciate the role model you are in Mobile, the impact you make in Mobile. You know, I'm over here in Point Clear now, but you know, I'm on the board of directors for Midtown, which is a nonprofit whose idea is to impact that community and help turn that community around in ways that that only only prayer and money can do. and we're looking for both right now, and it's I mean it's tough. And but we're going to get there, and with people like you continuing to give and give from the heart and impacting our world, you know, we'll make a dent in it. Ain't no doubt. Ain't no doubt. You know, so again,
Coach, all you can do is just make a dent, make a difference, and that small difference, Coach. You coached many of a young man, all right, and I know. You had many students come through the hallways, that walk the hallway, and you never know that one that's paying attention to what you're doing may not be that greatest athlete like myself that didn't actually play the game for you, whether it was some type of disability that didn't allow them to have physical contact, but still wanted to be involved and still wanted to be a part of. Like you said, Coach, there are so many young men out here that just need that little love, that little opportunity to see a positive male role model in their life.
Right.
And it starts not just in high school, but really at the elementary school level, to where the trust factor in that male becomes to the point to where you are scared to disappoint that positive male role model that's not in your house every single day, but knowing that you have to do right, and there are certain things that you have to do in order to play for Davidson or to play for Floor or to play park ball. You have
to and what you're saying, and that is the reason that youth sports, youth league, all those things are so important for young men, because most elementary schools are all ladies.
Yeah.
And it's all lady teachers, you know, and you know, so that's why you see so many youth league coaches have such an influence on these guys that they go to the NFL and recognize the guy who coached them at Municipal Park or whichever park. And you know, that is, you know, the first time that a lot of these guys run into men role models that aren't coaches, that are actually teachers, are in middle school. And a lot of times it's middle school administrators, and the first issue they have is back in the day was getting their rear end tore up or getting suspended.
Yeah.
You know, and already having an adversarial situation, and it is it's cyclical. I mean, the biggest blessing I continue to get is for my former players to send me pictures of them and their wives and their children, and say, hey, we did it. We the things that we heard you. You know, it wasn't about football. We heard you. A young man named Travis Hendricks, who I spoke to about 2 months ago. Travis was my quarterback at Inslee, inner city project school. I mean, it was tough. And, you know, everything about Travis Hendricks living in the projects right there said that he didn't have a chance. And, you know, Travis Hendricks won a special election 2 months ago in Birmingham and is now in the Alabama House of Representatives.
Love it.
And I saw it, and I sent him a message, and he's like, you know, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. You know, you have no idea. And so, I mean, yeah, it can happen. It can be done. And
one at a time, Coach. I mean, what they say, teach one, reach one. You know. Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's teach one, reach one, and you never know what kind of seeds can be multiplied by that, Coach. That's why, you know, when you say the word coach, when I say Coach Fred Riley, coach holds a lot of weight. And sometimes that coach title, it's father, it's counselor, it is coach, it's all of the above. And that's the great part about what I respect about how you were able to do what you did for so long and continue to do within your semi-pro organization, continuing to allow young men to chase their dreams and continue them to have that outlet that sometimes you need as an adult, much less a child. Sometimes you need that outlet. And I respect what you and your wife both are continuing to do, and the avenues that you're continuing to provide for everyone that's involved.
Well, we appreciate that, and again, you know, again, keep up the work, keep showing up, do like your daddy, keep showing up, and as you said, you keep showing up for 40 years, and you know. You'll end up having people come and hug you in heaven that say, "Hey, I'm here. You don't know me, but," and it'll be a special day. Again, Corey, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate your partner, and you know, working me in your schedule, and look forward to seeing you soon. Okay.
I appreciate you. God bless you and your wife, and thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you for allowing me to share a little bit of my story today.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.